Have you ever been at a family party, smiling, laughing, everything looking perfectly normal, when suddenly you realize you're in danger? Because that's exactly what happened to me. I was still holding Grandma Evelyn's hand when Daniel leaned in close and whispered, almost too calm, "Grab your bag. We're leaving. Act normal." At first, I thought he was joking. Daniel doesn't scare easily, but when I looked up and saw his face, my blood went cold. In 8 years of marriage, I had never seen that expression on him before. Fear, not the jumpy kind from a horror movie. This was sharp, calculating fear, the kind that makes your body tense before your brain even catches up. I mouthed, "What?" But he just shook his head, forcing a smile so faint it made my stomach twist. Then his hand brushed mine, our secret signal. The one we used to slip out of boring conversations at dinner parties. Only this wasn't a dinner party. This was my grandmother's birthday. Why was he using it now? All around us, the celebration continued like nothing was wrong. Balloons floating overhead, music blasting from the speakers, my sister Lila giving an over-the-top speech about Dad's perfect planning. Grandma Evelyn sat in her sapphire shawl, smiling like a queen watching her court. Everything looked picture perfect. But Daniel's warning echoed in my ears. Act normal. I smiled, leaned down to Grandma, and whispered, "Bathroom." She nodded without suspicion. Daniel and I threaded through the crowd, nodding, laughing, pretending. Someone teased, "Sneaking off for wine, you two?" Daniel chuckled back, "You know us." But the moment the sliding door shut behind us, the mask dropped. Daniel grabbed my wrist, not hard, just firm enough to tell me this was serious. "Daniel, what's happening?" I whispered. "You're scaring me." "Just trust me," he muttered. "I'll explain in the car." I didn't know it then, but what waited outside would change everything. Because when I finally looked back at the house and saw Lila standing there, just staring at us, I realized Daniel wasn't being paranoid. Something was very wrong. And if you're as confused as I was in that moment, don't worry. The truth is coming. But it's darker than I ever expected. The truth is, this whole nightmare didn't start at the party. It started days earlier, with a phone call I almost didn't answer, and if I had let it ring, maybe none of this would have happened. It was a quiet Sunday. I was folding laundry when my phone buzzed across the counter. Dad's name flashed on the screen, and for a moment, I froze. We hadn't spoken much in years, not because of some big dramatic fight, but because every conversation left me feeling smaller, like I didn't quite fit in his version of family. Still, curiosity got the better of me. I picked up. "Hi, Dad." "Clara," he said warmly, too warmly. "How are you, sweetheart?" Instant red flag. My dad never called just to chat. If he was on the line, it meant he wanted something. He chuckled softly, like this was no big deal. "Your grandmother's birthday is coming up. Her 85th. Can you believe it? We're throwing a surprise party. Big gathering, decorations, cake, the works. Your sister Lila's helping organize everything, and we'd love it if you came." The mention of Lila made me pause. She and I hadn't been close since high school. She turned everything into a competition, and I was always the opponent she needed to beat. Still, I couldn't ignore Grandma Evelyn. That woman had done more for me than both my parents combined. "Of course," I heard myself say, "I'll be there." Dad sounded almost triumphant. "Wonderful! It'll mean the world to her." He rattled off the details, date, location, and then dropped the kicker. It would all be happening at our old family home, the house I hadn't set foot in for nearly a decade. I felt a flicker of unease, but brushed it off. That evening, when I told Daniel, he looked thoughtful. "Your dad invited you?" His raised eyebrow said it all. "I know it's strange," I admitted, "but I can't miss Grandma Evelyn's 85th. She practically raised me." Daniel nodded slowly, but I could tell he wasn't convinced. "And Lila's involved too?" "Yeah, why?" He leaned back, exhaling. "I don't know. It just feels too perfect, like they're trying too hard." The week leading up to the trip felt off. I kept imagining stepping back into that house, seeing my old room, walking the creaky porch where Grandma and I used to sip lemonade. Nostalgia tangled with dread in my stomach. Daniel seemed unusually meticulous that week, checking the car, the GPS, the chargers, every detail. I chalked it up to him being protective, but looking back, maybe he already sensed what I couldn't. The drive was 6 hours of music, snacks, and safe topics. I told him the good memories, blanket forts, cookies. Grandma snuck me when Dad said no. I didn't bring up the darker ones. Some memories are better left boxed up. Finally, we pulled into the driveway. It was like walking into a photograph that had been retouched just a little too much. The same white shutters, the same welcome mat, but the lawn looked unnaturally perfect. The balloons lined up like soldiers, and a massive banner shouting, "Happy 85th, Evelyn." Dad stood at the door, smiling wide, arms open like nothing had ever been wrong between us. "There she is," he said, "my girl." Lila appeared right beside him, clipboard in hand, kissing the air next to my cheek. "We're so glad you made it, Clara." Daniel's hand tightened around mine. Not enough to hurt, but enough to tell me he felt it too. Something about this place didn't feel right, and the moment we stepped inside, that feeling only grew stronger. The second we stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. Not warmth, not nostalgia, just wrong. The living room looked exactly how I remembered it, but too polished, too perfect, like someone had recreated my childhood home from a catalog. The rug where I used to color with Grandma Evelyn, gone, the walls, freshly painted. And yet, beneath the shine, there was this heavy stillness in the air, like the house itself was holding its breath. Daniel noticed it too. His eyes scanned every corner, his fingers tapping restlessly against his leg. That was his tell. Whenever something didn't sit right, Daniel slipped into observation mode. "Looks nice," I said softly, forcing a smile. "It looks staged," he muttered back. Meanwhile, Lila floated across the room with that high-pitched voice she always used when she wanted to seem friendlier than she really was. Dad was giving some guests a grand tour, proudly pointing at framed photos and heirlooms I didn't even recognize. Then I saw her. Tucked in the corner by the window, wrapped in her pale blue shawl, was Grandma Evelyn. My heart squeezed. She was smiling at a little boy rolling a balloon at her feet, but something about her seemed off. I walked over, knelt down beside her. "Hi, Grandma," I whispered. Her smile flickered, but her eyes looked cloudy, tired. "Clara," she murmured, her voice thin. "You came?" "Of course," I whispered, taking her hand. Her grip was light, too light. Her cheeks were pale, her eyelids heavy, like she hadn't had a real night's sleep in weeks. Daniel came to my side, resting a hand on my back. "Hi, Grandma," he said kindly. She blinked up at him. "Oh, Jack," she said. I froze. Grandma never forgot his name. Never. Lila swooped in instantly, her smile a little too quick. "She's just been sleepy lately." "Doctor says it's age." Her tone was dismissive, rushed, like she wanted to move past it before I could ask questions. But the knot in my stomach only tightened. I stood and scanned the room again. Guests mingled, clinking glasses, laughing too loudly, but sprinkled among the familiar faces were a few men I didn't recognize. Suits, stiff postures, they weren't talking to anyone, they weren't touching food, they were just waiting. I leaned toward Daniel. "Who are those guys?" "I was wondering the same thing," he murmured. "They don't belong here." Before I could ask more, Dad appeared with 2 glasses of punch, his grin stretched too wide. "You two enjoying yourselves?" Daniel accepted the glass but didn't drink. "Everything looks very polished," Dad chuckled. "Had to make it special. Not every day your mother turns 85. Then he turned to me. "Glad you came, sweetheart. Your grandmother's been asking for you." But when I glanced back at her, Grandma Evelyn's head was tipped back, her eyes fluttering shut again. Lila clapped her hands to corral everyone. "Group photos outside. Let's catch that golden light." The crowd shifted, Dad waved, and Daniel leaned toward me. I'm going to check something near the driveway. Check what? I asked. His look said it all. I'll explain later. I nodded, heart tight. Be careful. As he slipped away, I stayed by Grandma's side, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. She stirred but didn't open her eyes. The decorations were flawless. The house sparkled. Everyone smiled like nothing was wrong, but none of it felt real. It felt like a setup. For the first time that day, I wondered if coming back had been a mistake. And when Daniel returned from outside, I knew something had shifted. He'd only been gone 10 minutes, but the look on his face was different. His jaw was set, his eyes sharper, the look he got when pieces weren't adding up in his head. He walked straight toward me as I held a paper cup to Grandma Evelyn's lips. You okay? I asked. Yeah, he said quickly, but his clipped tone betrayed him. Can we talk in the hallway? I glanced at Grandma, her eyelids fluttering as she drifted off again, then followed him out. The music from the party muffled behind us. Daniel leaned in. Those men, they're not guests. They're trying to blend in, but they're not eating, not socializing. I overheard one of them mention timing the drop. That's not party talk. A chill ran down my spine. Daniel, what's going on? He scanned over his shoulder, voice low. I don't want to scare you, but this isn't just about a birthday party. Something bigger is happening here. Then he added, I checked the bathroom downstairs. Found evidence in the medicine cabinet. Someone's been planting things, enough to pull something off if they wanted to. Before I could press him, Lila's chirpy voice cut through the hall. There you two are. Cake and gifts. Daniel forced a polite smile. We'll be right there. As soon as she turned the corner, his mask dropped again. He leaned close. Clara, I think your dad and Lila are trying to make Grandma look mentally unfit. If they succeed, they'll get control of everything, her estate, her accounts, her house. My head spun. But why now? He hesitated, then whispered, because the paperwork's already moving. We walked back in as candles were being lit on a massive cake. Dad stood proudly beside Lila, grinning like he'd won. Grandma sat slouched in her chair, half awake. I knelt by her. Grandma? She blinked slowly, mumbled, Oh, hello, dear. She's just tired, Lila cut in quickly, almost too quickly. Daniel leaned into my ear. We leave after this. I nodded. The room erupted in a shaky chorus of happy birthday. People laughed, cameras flashed, but I couldn't focus on any of it. I whispered to Grandma, I'll come back for you. She didn't stir. Daniel's hand closed over mine, guiding me calmly through the side hallway. We didn't rush. We didn't draw attention. His composure made it worse. It meant the danger was real. We passed Dad, who clapped Daniel on the back. Great cake, Daniel said smoothly. Dad smiled, oblivious. Once outside, Daniel started the car. The locks clicked shut with a sharp snap, and only then did I exhale. They had sedatives, he said flatly. I froze. What? In the kitchen drawer. Unmarked pill bottle, crushed residue, not hers. My stomach lurched. You think they're drugging her? Daniel's jaw tightened. That's the guess. If they can prove she's incompetent, they'll own everything. He turned sharply off the main road. Why are we turning? I asked. One of those men followed us out, he said. You know how I work. Despite everything, a fragile smile tugged at my lips, but it vanished when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Why did you leave? I froze, showing Daniel. His jaw locked. We're going straight to the station. I didn't argue, because suddenly this wasn't just about protecting Grandma Evelyn. It was about stopping something much darker before it went any further. Still, a part of me clung to denial. Maybe the pills were innocent. Maybe the men were just awkward family friends. Maybe my sister hadn't spent months weaving something sinister behind Grandma's back. But the look in Daniel's eyes told me the truth. This wasn't paranoia. It was happening. I thought I'd already seen the worst. But then Daniel pulled a flash drive from his pocket and pressed it into my hand. Open the files, he said. See for yourself. My stomach nodded as I plugged it into my phone. One by one, images appeared. Sloppy signatures scrawled under my grandmother's name. Daniel pointed to one. That's a declaration of incapacity. It's the first step in starting a conservatorship. My breath caught. You're saying they were going to take control of her? Her house? Her bank accounts? Everything? He nodded grimly. Looks that way. I shut my eyes. But not today, right? Not during the party. Daniel hesitated, then gave the slightest nod. That's why I got you out. I scrolled through the files again, the timestamps, just an hour ago. My hand shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. Daniel took the phone gently from me, opened my contacts, and tapped a number I hadn't called in years. Who are you dialing? I whispered. He pressed the phone to his ear. County police. My heart lurched. Are you sure? Completely. The line rang. Then a voice. County Sheriff's Department. What's your emergency? Daniel's tone was calm, steady. Mine wasn't. She trusted them, I whispered to myself. She thought Dad and Lila had changed. Daniel squeezed my hand. They haven't. But you saw it, Clara. That's what matters. 20 minutes later, 2 patrol cars pulled up. Daniel handed over the flash drive, explained everything. I added my part, my voice shaky but clear. The officers didn't dismiss us. They took notes, made calls. Then one said, "We're heading to the property now. You two should come with us." I wanted to say no. My body screamed. Not really, but I nodded. We stood behind the officers as they knocked on the front door. My pulse thundered in my ears. The door creaked open, and there was Lila, still in her party dress, mascara smudged, her smile stretched too wide. Officers, is something wrong? We're here following a report of suspected elder abuse and fraud. Her smile faltered. Inside, the house looked just as staged as before, and there, in the center of it all, still in her armchair, was Grandma Evelyn. Her eyes half shut, head lolling like she was caught in a fog. An officer knelt beside her. "Ma'am, do you know where you are?" Her eyelids fluttered open slowly. "At home. And do you know what day it is?" She blinked, paused. "My birthday." Daniel leaned in close to me. "She's still under something." The other officer called for paramedics. My stomach twisted. That's when Daniel pulled out his phone again. "We also found these." He held up a photo of the forged documents. Dad's face went pale. "Sir," the officer said, turning to him, "we'll need you to come with us." "You too, ma'am." Lila's voice cracked. "We were just trying to protect her. She's getting worse. We were going to move her into care." But the officers weren't buying it. They escorted both of them outside. No yelling, no excuses. Just silence. I stood in the doorway, watching the squad cars roll away, my chest heavy. Daniel wrapped his arm around me. "They'll face charges. The documents, the meds, there's more than enough." Later that night, Grandma was taken to the hospital for observation. I rode with her in the ambulance. She held my hand the whole way, refusing to let go until a nurse tucked her into bed. "I thought I was alone," she whispered. "You never were," I said softly. "Not for a second." Back at the hotel, Daniel and I sat side by side on the bed. No TV, no music, just silence. "You did good," he said at last. "So did you," I replied. And for the first time in years, I felt it. Not just relief, not just survival. Peace. Looking back, I realized the warning signs had been there all along. My father's sudden warmth, Lila's forced friendliness, the perfect house that felt like a stage set. It was all part of a plan to take everything from Grandma Evelyn while smiling for the camera. But they underestimated 2 things: Daniel's instincts and the fact that I was watching closer than they thought. That night, as Grandma slept safely in the hospital, I finally understood what peace feels like. Not because the danger was over, but because I'd chosen to see the truth, even when it was painful. Family is supposed to protect you, but sometimes the ones smiling at the party are the very people you should be most afraid of. And that's the part that still haunts me. Because if Daniel hadn't whispered those words in my ear, act normal, I might never have seen it coming.